The topic.
Would you like to know the topic for tonight's discussion, honey?
Yes.
Okay. Tonight's topic, I was trying to fluff up my hair a little bit, but it didn't work, is the lender can make or break the deal.
Repeat after me. The lender can make or break the deal.
Make or break the deal. Now, the reason I was thinking about that is because I'm doing a deal. Long story short, my client has a family friend who has used this particular lender apparently several times in another state. And before moving forward, I talked to the lender just to make sure that they had everything organized, make sure they had everything underwritten, made sure they had all my client's information reviewed. Because when you're pre-approved, it means they've actually reviewed your documentation. Okay, they've reviewed, let's see, that's Coco. They've reviewed your taxes, your income, your bank statements, your last pay stubs, et cetera, and so on. And so I felt very comfortable because they also said, oh, they're fully underwritten. We just need the appraisal. So great, we're solid. So it's going to be easy peasy. We probably could close early.
So that put the stamp of their name and their firm stating that, hey, these people, go ahead, you can put a contract for this.
And they're solid. And I called to verify because all lenders will tell you they're solid, but they're not. So
we have a few that we don't have to call once because we have worked in the past with them.
Right. So if you have a relationship with lenders, you don't have to because you know how they do things and that they do things the way they should. And so in this case, long story short, they were from another state. They had some appraiser come out that really was not very good. He didn't know the market well and had misinformation, but apparently told the lender that, oh no, my information's good and it's fine. And I'm not going to update my appraisal with more accurate information. And so this created a lot of tension because there were multiple offers on this deal and we had the buyer. And so they chose us because we were going to be easy to work with and had, felt good about working with us. And so it's real disappointing when we become the source of stress. Okay. In this case, they could have very easily, number one, had a backup offer and said, no, we're not extending. We're just going to take the next backup offer that was higher than yours. That would have a better appraisal than yours. Or, you know what, they could have even potentially put it back on the market and sold it in a minute for make another 5-10 grand potentially by kicking us out. Fortunately, by God's grace, they've been patient with us. As frustrated as they are, they're waiting for us. But this can really make or break a deal. And one of the questions that we ask as experienced agents have you ever worked with this company before? What are their days to close? How long for appraisals to come in? Okay, because one of our favorite lenders, we know that he tends to have delays in Houston market. So even though there's delays, we know how to have a better idea of how many days we need to close because we know that in that area we're going to need a little longer. And we let the agents know, we're aware of the fact that Houston is, behind schedule and the appraisers are harder to get. And so we account for that and we let them know up front so that we don't create any undue stress.
Right. And that's the part that comes from realtors. We have to be able to set up the right expectations.
Experienced realtors.
And not only the expectations, also, something that has worked for us in the past is that you have to let them know also worst case scenario. So they can kind of prepare themselves, not only financially, all the documents and everything, but also emotionally. And that's something that we do quite often. You do a lot of, very often. It's like sometimes
setting up expectations.
You set them up and you stay communicating with your client at all times, with your client, with the other agent. For example, there's a property we want to close in Houston. And basically we communicated with our client twice this morning. And we say, okay, we send an email to the actual title company today stating here's the address, here's the phone number. Let's get the mobile notary ready to go. So even though we're 3 days ahead of the actual closing, we want to make sure everybody's informed. And we also copy our client. We copy our client so he knows that we're doing our part. in terms of getting all those everything ready. But going back to the lending, you know, that's
some financial institutions, some lenders are notorious for being just difficult, miserable to work with, late.
And a lot has to do with how they are,
Corporate,
how
like
they're
the big
exactly
corporate.
how they're corporate, because the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and then when you try to communicate with that person, they're not available to respond to you. It takes days for them to get back to you. Meanwhile, you're trying to figure out what are we doing here. You know, are we closing or not? So.
And part of our training every 2 years, we have to do ethics updates and legal updates. And part of our every 2-year updated education is make sure you tell your buyers, have at least 2 or 3 plus, talk to 2 or 3 plus lenders. You don't know who's going to have the best rate for you. You don't know who's going to have the best underwriting. For example, some particular buyers were saying, well, I was thinking about using these people, but they haven't contacted me back in 2 weeks. Well, there's your sign right there. And when I looked into them, yeah, they were notorious for having also not underwriting well. And even if it was a decent file and a decent buyer, that their underwriting and the way they do things is kind of iffy. And so that you're not even guaranteed to close. So we're like, you know what, it's cutting those corners and trying to maybe get in a better deal for maybe losing a property because they're not good. It's not worth it. And you won't get your offer accepted if it's a savvy seller or a savvy listing agent. They'll say, no, you don't want to work with them. They're going to be trouble.
Right. And something funny, really funny that I really need to share with you guys is that actually happened to us. We worked with a lender that we knew very, very well. And then when it came to buy this actual property, not all the docs, not everything was in order.
They were good point. So some underwriters, like if they need some more documentation or they need to verify like repairs on an appraisal, every time you submit something back in, you know, with a good lender, they're just going to look at it within hours or within that day and say, okay, good, we're ready to close. And you're ready to close, waiting contingent on that document, right? And so with the lender we had used to buy this house, because it was a friend of ours who started working for the same mortgage company, we're like, okay, let's give him a shot at it. And he was fine, but the underwriting was a nightmare. And we told him, we're not going to work with you again if you're at that company anymore, because we can't refer anybody there. Because what would happen is once, for example, in our case, a couple, 3 minor repairs. Okay. We even called the appraiser back that day and said, hey, the repairs are done. Can you come back tomorrow to verify them? The appraiser came right back the next day. Great. And the appraiser told us, oh, I can't turn this proof of repairs in until the lender sends me the request.
Right.
They didn't send her a request for like 5 days. And then once she turned it in, it went to the back of the line to get reviewed. So we had, like, even though we were delayed, our closing date was delayed because of little odds and ends, they sent us to the back of the line instead of putting us in the front for a quick confirmation glance of, yeah, okay, the repairs are done, boom, we're done, close. And so every time there was something, they kept sending us to the back of the line. They kept sending us to the back of the line. And that doesn't make it, that's just not good business when it comes to real estate. You have to have a lender who puts you in the front of the line when you're due to close and you're past closing. Right?
Yeah. The actual sense of urgency should be based on the day you're closing, not on what time did we get that phone call. Let's put it back on the queue. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Because they're treating the business of real estate as if it's just nobody's involved in it. There's no human beings involved in it. We're just a number, and that is absolutely wrong. We're not a number. Our clients are not a number for sure, not at all. And we want to make sure that you guys know that when you're working with a realtor, make sure they just don't treat you as a number. To do a transaction today, they pass it on to somebody else to continue with the process.
Yeah. So I think that's it. We are going to enjoy our Saturday night now. Have a great day, and we're here if you need us. Bye.